Hello Strength Matters, welcome to Whiteboard Wednesdays. An opportunity for us to talk as much as we can in terms of training principles and training concepts to help you become the best version of yourself. I am Phil McDougall.
And I'm Scott Olson. Thanks for joining us.
So today we are going to talk very generally about the 7 human movement patterns. First off, why do we need to care about this? Why is it relevant? And then we'll go into a little bit about each one, but very briefly then we'll just talk about how it kind of connects to where we're going with this. Why is separating the ways that the body moves important?
Okay. So primarily in my world of treating people, treating dysfunction and pain, one of the biggest problems with our modern society is we sit too much and we lose these dynamic movement patterns. We lose them because our body adapts to sitting and adapts to a relatively small range of human movement that can be walking from the front door to the car, sitting to work, sitting at work, heading home. So there's a dynamic world of play, movement, and capability that is often being unaddressed. Yeah,
completely. The human body should move three-dimensionally in 3 planes as we were designed to do. I'll just share a quick analogy that I've shared with my clients over the years. So if you're sitting there at home now or standing, just move your arms around and move your body around and just have a bit of a play. Now imagine that you were wearing a wetsuit, and the wetsuit, between the wetsuit and your skin is Vaseline, and then just imagine doing the same thing. It would feel pretty much similar, right? Well, that's good movement compared to bad movement. Now imagine you put super glue inside your wetsuit, let it dry for the next hour, and then try to move around in 3 dimensions. Think how restricted you would be, how your arms can go up and how you can't flex. That is exactly the same as what's going on underneath your skin in terms of fascial adhesion, and the way that the muscles just shorten and the body adapts to kind of being in this horrible seated position that we spend so much time in every day. So just, and to keep on top of that, this is why we come up with these movements, because your body should be able to do all of these things, and they should be doing it every single day.
So great metaphor with the wetsuit. I've never thought of that one before. It actually sounds horrible to be in a wetsuit filled with super glue. And it occurs to me, I've had enough sleepless nights, I've had enough intense training sessions that sometimes I wake up and I kind of feel like I'm in that wetsuit. So it's not the place we want to operate from.
Yeah.
So we're going to break down the movement patterns starting with locomotion. And I'll just step into that, and that is to say movement is so much more complex than just walking from point A to B. But let's be real, we are bipeds. We have 2 legs, and walking is one of our most fundamental movement patterns of locomotion. So we have walking, we have crawling, we have moving through the world in a lot of different ways, but this concept of running, sprinting, jumping, diving, these are all forms of locomotion that have whole sporting industries around them, but are really basic human functions we should be able to do.
Yeah, I think locomotion is generally the one that's most forgotten in previous human movement dissections. But we think it's the most important and number 1. The rest I don't think are in any particular order. The squat is the human sitting position. I've spent a fair bit of time in Afghanistan, and the locals will literally sit around for hours in a deep squat position. They'll eat there, they'll socialise there. But we Westerners have forgotten that ability because we sit in chairs all the time. I had a few clients back in London who spent all of their childhoods on the floor, eating on the floor, sleeping on the floor. They come from India, Korea, other places, and now training them as adults, and yeah, they're adults who sit behind a desk primarily in banks, but they, in 5 years of training them, no injuries, no musculoskeletal issues, brilliant movement, very easy to train, because they spent the first 15 years of their life or so on the floor. Anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Good. So dynamic human movement pattern, and that includes being out in the woods and being able to go to the bathroom. I mean, we have to squat. We have to be capable of doing that, and we need that on our toilets here in America. We need that getting down to play with our children. So that's a critical component.
Yeah. Hinge. Bend over, pick something up. Imagine a baby, a toddler, 3 or 4 years old, toddling along. Imagine them picking something up. Lovely neutral spine, everything's working perfectly. But then we spend so much time sitting in a chair as adults, and all of a sudden, hunch. It all goes into the lower back, slip disc.
So what piece is hinging? If we're going to use that, we're really talking about the hip sockets. And when we lose that, people use their back and bend their back far too much, which is really the whole industry of back pain around the world. It's from that disconnected movement pattern when we lose the hinge.
Rotate and anti-rotate.
Yeah.
Transverse plane. So there's the when we're talking about these two, we're talking about primarily the movement through the torso. All the rotation in the body when it comes to whole human movement should pretty much come from the ankles, the hips, and the thoracic spine. So when we're talking about rotating, we're talking about rotating through those 3 areas. Rotation should come into human movement every minute of every day whenever we're up and moving around, reaching for something, throwing something, opening. It happens all the time. Our bodies live in rotation, and as my favourite teacher Perry Nicholson says, power lives in the transverse plane. So does that cover rotation?
That does cover rotation. So this anti-rotate, so this is this quality where whether or not it's the same muscles, the same movement pattern, what really is the principle here is stability, is the ability to resist change by staying connected in the position you want.
Yeah.
So this is day to day, if we're pushing a shopping cart and turning it, we're actually engaging all the muscles it takes to make sure that the cart is not turning us. This happens if we're pushed or nudged accidentally on purpose. And the world of wrestling and the world of climbing, these are people who've spent years developing this anti-rotate capability to be able to stick to the position of their choice and still be in control and with power.
Yeah. To be able to apply force with an arm or a leg, the spine transmits force all the way up and down it, best when it's in a neutral position. The structures of the torso should be really good at holding the spine into that neutral position as the arms and legs move to create that force up or down. So anti-rotation is especially important when it comes to lifting anything, when you have to lift anything off the floor, any one-sided lifts, one-sided, single-sided leg movements. Push-pull, pretty easy, mostly pretty much pertaining to upper body, pushing and pulling with hands. Push in all planes, doesn't matter where. You might, in other circles, especially bodybuilding circles, they've broken these down further into horizontal pushing, vertical pushing, horizontal pulling, vertical pulling. But I think for the sake of the everyday athlete who doesn't necessarily care about stimulating every muscle fiber, it's still the same mechanics of pulling and pushing, whether it be horizontal or vertical.
And I'll just say what's worth distinguishing or even acknowledging here, even though these are 7 primary movement patterns, the more we put time and development in each of the specific movement patterns, the more feedback and dynamic capability we have in the other movement patterns. So as Phil mentioned, a lot of the people he knew had spent so much time on the floor, squatting, moving, getting up, getting down, they actually become quite capable, quite efficient at many of these other principles when they train them at their desired time. But yeah, if we start to lose the hinge because our sitting position is so bad, posture is lost, if we lose the dynamic locomotion of not just walking, but being able to run or sprint or cut from side to side, change direction, then a lot of other things start to deteriorate.
So that pretty much covers the first one on the human movement patterns. We could easily talk for the next hour justifying them, like where does tumbling fit in, where does get back up tumbling fit in, where does the lunge fit in. We can all, between the two of us, I think we can justify each of those, but they're all small t's in the big truth, little truth. You know, anybody at any level of knowledge about the lunge can probably argue that the lunge should have its own, or it should be maybe a mixture of two or whatever. But for the purpose of training the everyday athlete, we've gone with these. We're not saying that these are any more right than anybody else who's come up with these in the past, but it's just ours. So over the next few Whiteboard Wednesdays, we're going to go into spend 5 to 7 minutes of the session going quite deeply into each of these, just so you know what it is, and then we'll come up with a continuum for each. So you've got the most basic to the most advanced, and then we can start thinking about programs and how you can fit these into a weekly program to make sure you tick all the boxes of movement without going too far ahead and injuring yourself.
Well, as always, thanks for joining us on Whiteboard Wednesdays. And if you took a look at this list and you thought there are one or two pieces you have not worked on in a while, I think it's time. Spend some time over the next week playing with the patterns that challenge you, and even honoring some of the patterns you're already good at. Yeah, you could always take that to the next level. So thanks for joining us. Any last word, Phil?
No, I think we covered everything.
Brilliant.
Right.
All right, until
Cool.
next time.
Bye for now.